When you're MAGA and Donald Trump and you've lost the bro podcast constituency, you've lost Joe Rogan, you could just throw in the towel, put a fork in it. You are done. The polling numbers are showing it. The worst polling numbers in the history of polling related to Donald Trump have come out this week. And that was leading into the failed military cosplay parade that the vast majority of Americans hate, including independents. The immigration raids, chasing innocent human beings through farms, factories, hotels, churches in California and in other places in raids, that is hated by the American people, tanking Donald Trump's overall approval rating. And add on to that, besides the military parade, which nobody thinks the money should have been spent on it, besides the complete rejection of his immigration policy, which used to be a strength for him, and the overall disfavorability rating for Donald Trump in the trash, the lowest in the history of reviewing Donald Trump. He's lost Joe Rogan. I haven't lost you. You're here on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. Let's get to it. You're here. Take a moment. Hit that free subscribe button now more than ever. Make your movement part of our movement. Come together with us here now. All right. Joe Rogan doesn't like the immigration policy, thinks it's heartless, thinks it's depraved, thinks if you think it's fine, then you don't have children, or you're not putting yourself in those people's shoes. Joe Rogan has ears and eyes. I may not agree with 90% of what Joe Rogan says or thinks, but I am respectful of the fact that he is a successful podcaster that has the heartbeat of a constituency in America in his hand, right? He's got the pulse of America, not aspects of the part that I support. But look, we're all Americans, and he speaks to a large segment of them. And he took a look at the video and the reports of mothers being separated from their U.S. citizen children and babies and citizens being deported by accident or not by accident, by carelessness and laziness by the Trump administration, putting them effectively back in cages, and said, you are heartless, MAGA, if you think that's proper policy. And the poll numbers are starting to reflect it. Let me play the clip first of the we lost Joe Rogan moment for MAGA. And putting all kidding aside, it matters because we already know from the polling that Donald Trump effectively has lost the independent vote. He only won against Kamala Harris because the independents came out in large numbers and gave him the benefit of the doubt, or they didn't like Kamala Harris, or they didn't like the way Joe Biden left the race, or they didn't like the lack of a primary, whatever it was. Independents carried the day for Donald Trump. He got his MAGA base. The Democrats, many of them, 7 million of them, stayed home. The independents broke for Donald Trump in large numbers, 70%, and he wins the presidency. But now, if there was a referendum on Donald Trump, which is what the midterm is, he would lose. If people were doing a no confidence vote, there would be a no confidence vote, and this government would crumble. And so when you've lost now 70%, you flip the numbers of the independents now support the Democrats against Donald Trump or want their vote back for voting for Donald Trump, coupled with it now entering the water supply and popping up in places like Joe Rogan, who speaks truth to his group. Let's play the clip.
I see a lot of people online talking about this immigrant issue, and they either don't have kids or they don't think it could happen to their kids. Their idea is, hey, shouldn't have fucking come over here. You get those kind of people. Broke the law. Shouldn't have fucking come over here if your kid, you didn't want to get your kid separated. If you were in the presence of a woman who came over here from Guatemala and she's poor and she's starving and they're taking her baby away and she's wailing and screaming from a primal place in her DNA that the one thing she loves more than anything is being taken away. A baby.
Yeah.
If that doesn't freak you the fuck out, you're not a part of the team, man. You're missing it. You're missing it. What are we here for? We're here for 100 years of whatever. That's what we're here for. If you want to spend 100 years saying, hey, she shouldn't have fucking broke the law, I don't want you on the team. You're an asshole. right? And I don't give a fuck if you're right or left. I don't care if you're religious, or I don't care if you're an atheist. If that's what you support, you're an asshole, and we don't want you on our team. I don't give a fuck if they broke the law. You don't take parents and kids and separate them. You just fucking don't. It's disgusting. If you're saying, well, they shouldn't have broke the law. Maybe they shouldn't have broke the law. You don't get to do something that's 1,000 times worse than crossing a line in the dirt. That fucking imaginary line in the dirt, crossing that is nothing in comparison to your crime of stealing a baby from its mother. That's fucking insane.
Again, in that world, if you've lost Joe Rogan, that's the canary in the coal mine moment, right? That canary just died. And the canary, and he's a giant canary in the form of Joe Rogan. Let's look at the polling numbers. This isn't some of the worst numbers in the history of Donald Trump polling. It is the worst numbers in the history of Donald Trump polling. Everything he does leads to a drop in his support. Let me repeat that. Everything he does, how he's managing global affairs, which is professional malpractice, how he's gotten us involved with a number of wars, how he's not only failed to stop a war between Ukraine and Russia, Russia being the aggressor in his management of it, mismanagement of it, but he's gotten us in ultimately into a full-blown firefight in the Middle East of his own creation by supporting Netanyahu and looking the other way and turning a blind eye and supporting the attack on Iran. So you have that going on, and the public hates it. The tariff war leading to economic instability at home. The public hates it. The immigration policy, which used to be his strong suit by a couple of points of favorability, is now in the trash. Particularly, two major polls that just came out in the last couple of days, Quinnipiac and AP, both say that Donald Trump is now between 16 points and 21 points underwater, meaning he's more disfavored than favored by 21%, negative 21%. And in immigration, which used to be his strong suit, he went from 4 points up, he was more favorable than not favorable, to now 2 points down, a 6-point swing since June 1. People have eyes, they have ears, they're watching what's going on. They see the split screen of the presidential cosplay military hijacking that went on, like Donald Trump's Tiananmen Square, at the same time that elected officials were hunted and killed and their families in Minnesota, which should have led to the cancellation of that parade, at the same time that Americans, including veterans, are being zip-tied by Marines in California. People see all of that. More than 60%, up to 65% of America is against Donald Trump's actions to federalize California's troops. It's mattering. It's showing up in the polls now. And 60%, and that means some MAGA, think it's a waste of taxpayer dollars for an administration that likes to call themselves transparent and all about getting rid of waste and abuse and fraud to save the taxpayer dollars. Yeah? They're trying to get rid of trillions of dollars of benefits in Medicare and Medicaid and food stamps to pay for Donald Trump's cosplay military parade. And 60% of America doesn't like that either. Let me show you a clip from a polling expert that just ran through these numbers that way, just to show you that I'm not making this up. Let's roll the clip.
Overall, how have what we've seen in the last days, but also the last few weeks, have ramped up immigration crackdowns, these raids that we've seen in California and beyond, and the protests in response? How's it impacting his approval?
Yeah, I think the simple word here is hurt. It has hurt Donald Trump's popularity. You can see it right here. We have two new polls, Quinnipiac University, AP Newark. I got the prior poll for you on the screen. I got the now. This is the net approval rating. You could see this in Quinnipiac, minus 12 to minus 16. How about AP Newark? Minus 16 to minus 21. Awful, awful, awful for both of these pollsters. Where we are right now, both Quinnipiac and AP Newark, the worst for Donald Trump in this term so far, he is very much way underwater, at least in these two polls.
And this is overall approval. How about specifically on immigration?
Yeah, so immigration has been a strength for Donald Trump. That was why in the beginning of the week I said that Donald Trump wanted this fight. Maybe he shouldn't have wanted this fight. What are we talking about here? Let's take a look at the net approval rating for Donald Trump on immigration. You go back to June 1, he was at plus 4 points. Look at where he is now, minus 2 points in the aggregate. That is a drop of 6 points in only about 2 weeks' time. The only thing that's happened over the last 2 weeks is obviously Donald Trump's ramped up immigration hawkish agenda. And at least at this particular point, the American people are saying, no, we do not like that. And they have turned against the president on his core strength issue of immigration. He is now underwater on the issue that has been strongest for him.
Okay. Why does this matter? Am I here just to troll Donald Trump because he's lost Joe Rogan? No. But if he's lost the Joe Rogans and it is now showing up in the polls, if he had just lost Joe Rogan, but the polls, he was still holding strong. He had a favorability rating that was above 50%. Despite our analysis of the fascism on full display with this administration, the American majority was in favor of him. I'd have a different type of hot take. But that's not what's happening. And Donald Trump, I don't care what his internal polling is saying about MAGA. You're 80%, 90%, 110% approved by MAGA. That's not going to get him the House and the Senate back at the midterms, nor is that going to set up the next MAGA fascist for the 2028 race. It matters. Why does it matter? Not because he's running for re-election. It matters because we need to make Donald Trump the lamest of lame duck presidents, which he is right now. If you look up lame duck in the dictionary, it should show a picture of Donald Trump. He can't get anything passed in Congress. The Senate is objecting to everything that is objectionable in his budget bill that nobody read in the House before they passed it at 4 o'clock in the morning. But the Senate, the deliberative body, is now reading it. He's not going to get his big budget passed the right way. Elon Musk, colored outside the lines and attacked him and said he should be impeached and is now trying to backtrack because his financial fortunes are at risk and try to apologize. But that happened. He attacks the Federalist Society. He's in the bunker. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Talk about military. People say, there's somebody had a sign up at the military parade. He's not Hitler. He's trying to keep us safe if this is him trying to keep us safe, I'd hate to see him if he was trying to undermine our national security, because it would look identical, And speaking of Hitler, he's acting like he's in a bunker, with a cyanide tablet nearby. Him and his Goebbels, Stephen Miller, coming up with all these unconstitutional, unpresidential abuses of power about immigration, about judges, about the Alien Enemies Act. It's just muddled thinking would be an understatement. With Donald Trump, he's a few sandwiches short of a picnic. The elevator's not going up to the top floor. The lights are on, but you know the rest. But I am encouraged by the fact that his unfavorability, his radioactiveness is showing up in polling. Because it matters. Because we got to destroy MAGA once and for all. We got one shot. And that is at the midterms. But there's work to do in between. The street protest movement is important. We've had more successful street protests binding together millions of Americans since this administration started less than 200 days ago than we did in the first term. Rule of law day, no King's Day, hands-off day. And that's just getting it started. So we got the public speaking out. Political activism in town halls held by congresspeople, writing to your congressperson, going to the town halls, making them uncomfortable. I'm talking about all peaceful protests here, by the way. First Amendment expression. Resist, right? Be civilly disobedient. It matters now on that end. The lawsuits being filed by the 14 or 15 leading attorneys general in the United States in the Democratic states and winning against Donald Trump matter. The federal judges who are holding Donald Trump accountable matter. The appellate courts that are doing the same. And then we got a 50-50 shot at the United States Supreme Court given the lineup. So that is the ecosystem. But the most important element, contributor, stakeholder in our constitutional republic, in our participatory democracy, is citizens, are the citizens. Naturalized American, natural born, naturalized or otherwise. The citizens matter. They will outlive any fascist president. This too shall pass. The question is, how do we clean up behind the elephant, literally? How do we clean up behind the elephants now? Limit the damage and then start the healing process in the midterms and with the next president being a Democrat. We'll cover it all right here. You're here already on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. I'm Michael Popok. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. Happy Father's Day. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.